Coming in at number 5 we have the striped surgeonfish. This fish is beautiful to look at, but beware to never cross paths with this creature. This species reaches about 38 centimeters in length and weighs only a little over a pound. Much of the body has black edged blue and yellow stripes, and the top of its head is striped with yellow. These fish have sharp forward pointing spikes on its spine and are extremely poisonous and are often referred to as knives. Along with the scary nicknames this creature has, it actually gets its name surgeon because of its sharp angular scalpel-like tail, and is sharp enough to easily cut you. These fish are very territorial, with a large male defending a feeding territory and a harem of females. The adults may also school, and they gather during spawning. The fish eats mostly crustaceans and algae. It's so aggressive that it might try and corner or bully members of its own species to get the best resources. Not only are they aggressive with their own species, but they display the same behavior to fish outside of their species. The surgeonfish is a fast swimmer that can swim up to 25 miles per hour and can live up to a whopping 20 years. These scary creatures dwell in the shallow parts of the ocean, where the reef crests are located and often found in tropical oceans like the Indo-Pacific Ocean and Northern Great Barrier Reef. So if you're going to be swimming in the tropical oceans on vacation, be very careful of this creature. Don't be fooled by its beauty and stay far away, because it will defend itself and its spawn at all costs and can infect you with its venom. Scientists believe that the world's seas hold around 1,200 of these different venomous fish species, and that they injure an estimated 50,000 people per year, so beware and stay away from the striped surgeonfish. In at number 4 we have sea slugs. These are again a beautiful creature to look at, but you will need to stay far away from them. Sea slugs have an enormous variation in body shape, color and size. Most of them tend to be partially translucent, and their often bright colors imply that these animals are under constant threat of predators. But the color can serve as a warning to other animals of the sea slug's toxic stinging cells or offensive taste. Some sea slugs eat prey that contains poison or venom, and instead of killing the prey, these slugs store the poison and release at predators for its own protection. Another disturbing fact about the sea slug is that they are cannibals. They are known to eat each other. They may eat a dead sea slug or attack a live one to eat it. Not only do they feed off their own, these creatures also eat plankton, algae and jellyfish. These animals also have both male and female sex organs, and they can lay mass amounts of eggs, sometimes up to 1 million eggs, and these deadly creatures can live up to 4 years. Sea hares, which is a common name for a large group of herbivores, sea slugs, and the largest of the sea hares is the California black sea hare, which are naturally toxic, and they can eject a foul ink or secrete a vicious slime to deter predators. One type of sea slug in particular, the grey-side gilled sea slug, has been linked to canine deaths, and beachgoers are warned to keep their children and pets close by to avoid accidental ingestion or contact. There are so many types of sea slugs, and most of them are extremely dangerous, so if you see a pretty looking glob near the shore or while swimming, avoid it at all costs. In at number 3 we have the pufferfish. There are more than 120 different species of pufferfish worldwide, and are mostly found in tropical and subtropical ocean waters. They can range in size from 1-inch long dwarf puffer to the freshwater giant puffer, which can grow to more than 2 feet in length. These creatures are scaleless fish and usually have rough to spiky skin. All have 4 teeth that are fused together in a beak-like form. Pufferfish tend to mostly feed on invertebrates and algae, while larger puffers will even crack open and eat clams, mussels and shellfish with their hard beaks. Poisonous puffers are believed to synthesize their deadly toxin from the bacteria in the animals they eat. Due to their slow and clumsy swimming style makes puffers very vulnerable to predators. When they feel threatened or notice a predator, they will use their highly elastic stomachs and the ability to quickly ingest huge amounts of water to turn themselves into a virtually inedible ball several times their normal size. Almost all pufferfish contain tetrodotoxin, a substance that makes them foul tasting and often lethal to fish. To humans, these creatures are extremely toxic and deadly. They are up to 1,200 times more poisonous than cyanide. There is enough toxin in one pufferfish to kill 20 adult humans, and there is no known antidote. This toxin is secreted across their body, making puffers dangerous to touch and even more dangerous to consume. Surprisingly, the meat of some pufferfish is considered a delicacy called fuju in Japan. It is extremely expensive and can only be prepared by trained licensed chefs who know how to prepare it properly, because one bad cut means almost certain death for a customer. Many such deaths occur annually because of poor preparation. In at number 2 we have candiru. This This fish is something out of a nightmare. This creature has many scary nicknames such as the toothpick fish or vampire fish. These fish tend to be small, only growing to about 7 inches, but others can grow larger, around 16 inches. Their heads are small with short sensory barbels around it, backward pointing spines on the gill covers, and their bodies are translucent and make it difficult to spot these creatures. They tend to reside in the Amazon, so if you're planning a trip, beware of these creepy creatures if you're going for a quick dip. Not many humans have been attacked, which is good, but those that have, it's been deadly. This scary creature feeds on blood and has been found feeding on the urethras of swimmers. Once it penetrates its victims, it can cause inflammation, hemorrhaging, and even death. The earliest report of the candiru attacking a human was in 1829, then again in 1855, and local Paraguay fishermen stated that it is dangerous to urinate in the water as the fish springs out of the water and penetrates into the urethra by ascending the length of the liquid column. The most recent attack of a candiru to a human was in 1997 in Brazil. A 23-year-old man was urinating while thigh deep in the water when he claimed the creature jumped from the water into his urethra. The victim underwent a 2-hour surgery to remove the fish from its body. Many speculate that these fish are attracted by the odor of the urine in the water, and that's what makes them attack, but others think these creatures hunt by sight and have no attraction to the urine at all. I think this creature might be the most terrifying of all sea creatures, because instead of just stinging or biting you, this creature actually inserts himself inside the human body and wreaks havoc. And finally, in number 1 we have Du Bois sea snake / beaked sea snake. There are more than 50 species of sea snakes, but the deadliest are the Du Bois sea snake and the beaked sea snake. These venomous snakes reside in many regions of Australia, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, and are common throughout the Indo-Pacific. They live in coral reef flats, sandy and silty sediments which contain seaweed, invertebrates, and coral or sponges that can serve as shelter to them. These snakes feed on moray eels and various fish that live on the seafloor, up to 3.5 feet in size. Their venom affects its prey's ability to contract the muscles and makes the prey flaccid to make it easier for the snakes to eat. The Du Bois sea snake is the most venomous sea snakes and one of the top 3 in the world. These snakes use their fangs to bite and release their venom to immobilize their prey for their own protection. The toxins in these snakes' venom affects the nervous system and it causes paralyzation of the body's muscles, then causes death due to respiratory failure. The beaked sea snake is responsible for more than 50% of all sea snake bites, and each bite contains anywhere from 7.9 to 9 milligrams of venom. A human can die from just 1.5 milligrams. Scientists have estimated that their venom is 4 to 8 times more lethal than that of a cobra. So along with the Du Bois snake, this venomous creature is among the most dangerous and venomous snake in the world. Not only do you have to be worried about venomous snakes on land, but some of the deadliest are in our oceans, so be careful when swimming in warm climates, and be sure to not come in contact with these scary creatures. Coming in at number 5 we have colossal squid. The colossal squid, which is not seen by many humans unless they have washed up on shore, they are considered to be the largest and heaviest squid species in the sea, weighing a total of 1,500 pounds and having a length of 33 feet long, as well as being the most elusive and mysterious creatures of the deep sea. The species were first discovered in 1925 when 2 colossal squid arms were found in a sperm whale's stomach. Then in 1981 another one was discovered, and finally in 2003 the colossal squid was collected for further research of this new and crazy species of squid. But to this day very little is known about this deep sea creature. These squids are also known to have the largest eyes out of the entire animal kingdom, being larger than a human head. Unlike other squid species, have hooks on their arms which are very muscular and strongly attached to their arms, and it's said these hook-like things are used to help the squid hold and immobilize struggling prey. Sounds like a horror movie death to me. Due to them being so far down in the sea, little is known about them and their behaviors, but what is known is that they prey on sperm whales. Yes, these creatures are fearless. They see a massive whale and say that's breakfast, which is terrifying. Only a few have been caught, and those couple that have been put on display at the Museum of New Zealand in December 2008. So if you're planning a trip to New Zealand, I would definitely suggest going to see this massive specimen, because the likelihood of you coming into contact with this squid while swimming is slim to none. But then again, why would you ever want to get close to this thing while while going for a swim. Coming in at number 4 we have Atlantic wolffish. The Atlantic wolffish comes with a lot of nicknames, otherwise known as the Atlantic catfish, sea cat, wolf eel, ocean catfish, sea wolf, and the most fitting, the devilfish. Their blue-like appearance makes them stand out from many of the other fish species in the deep sea. Besides their unique appearance, wolffish actually naturally produce antifreeze to keep their blood flowing due to their extremely cold environment. One good thing about these scary creatures is that they help control the crab and sea urchin populations, which tend to get out of hand quickly and can have a negative effect on the health of a marine system. They have several fang-like teeth in the front, followed by 3 more rows of teeth inside their powerful and crushing jaws. Even their throats are armed with serrated teeth. If that's not terrifying enough, they can grow as long as a fully grown human is tall, so about 6 feet give or take. Their diets consist of large hermit crabs, starfish, crustaceans, large whelks, and sea urchins. These hideous creatures are known for their quick strikes and even quicker kills because, being a part of the deep sea community, it's a fish eat fish world down there, and thankfully we are safe from them up here on land. In fact, the numbers of Atlantic wolffish in the US are actually depleting due to the overfishing, and according to the National Marine Fisheries Service, they are currently considered a species of concern. If you're an avid fisher in the Atlantic Ocean, try to steer clear from these creatures and let them do their own thing. Coming in at number 3, deep sea dragonfish. This is probably one of the ugliest fish I've ever seen, which is why it fits perfectly on this list, and that is the deep sea dragonfish. Sometimes referred to as the scaleless dragonfish, this hideous creature looks like something straight out of a horror movie, with its sharp transparent teeth, slimy skin, and enormous mouth which can open more than 100 degrees. Even though it's not the biggest creature of the deep sea, that doesn't stop it from eating prey 50 times its size, and that is beyond scary. This creature's teeth are stronger than the teeth of some of the fiercest fish predators like piranhas and even great white sharks. The dragonfish is a ferocious predator and can actually produce its own light through a chemical process known as bioluminescence, but when he's not hunting prey, he can easily disappear into the darkness of the deep sea and lurk in his habitat, 1600 feet under the surface of the ocean. The deep sea is the darkest and deepest corner of the ocean, with crushing pressure and lack of oxygen and light. It makes it extremely difficult for anything to survive down there. Thankfully, this predator is deep down in the ocean, and hopefully none of us will ever come in contact with this hideous water monster. Coming in at number 2 we have frilled shark. The frilled shark is often called the living fossil due to its appearance, looking like a massive prehistoric eel. They have a dark brown exterior and are almost 7 feet long. These creatures are terrifying due to their 40 rows of curved, razor-sharp teeth, which is a total of about 300 teeth. First discovered in 1876 by zoologist Ludwig Dodelin, who classified this creature as a discrete species of shark, and a few years later, after much research, it was later named its own species in the shark family, given a name because of its frilly looking gills, and today there are 2 different types of species of the frilled shark. Regardless of how many species there are, I don't want to come in contact with any of them. This creature tends to live in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and don't tend to come into contact with humans, but a handful of times they have been accidentally caught by commercial fishermen. Thankfully, you probably will never come into contact with this terrifying creature because the closest they've come to the ocean surface is 390 feet deep, but typically they reside more than 3 times that depth. They live very close to the ocean floor and survive off of cephalopods, bony fish, and smaller sharks. When hunting for food, these creatures move similar to an eel, lunging and bending to capture their prey and continue to swallow them whole with their long and flexible jaws and of course their massive amounts of teeth. Due to the creatures living in the deep sea, they are rarely seen, and for good reasons, but there was rare footage that came out in 2007 of one. If you're not too scared, you can go check it out after this video. And finally, in at number 1 we have stonefish. They are known to live in the tropical Pacific and Indian Oceans, and these deep sea creatures have perfect camouflage to look like a rock on the floor of a coral reef. So even if you somehow were around one, you probably wouldn't even notice it was a fish. They are close relatives to the scorpion fishes and consume other reef fishes and some sea floor invertebrates. They don't actively hunt their prey, they just wait for their prey to come to them, waiting hours at a time, and when their potential target is less than their body length away, they will strike. They have some of the most powerful jaws and very large mouths that create so much pressure they are able to easily trap their unsuspecting prey and swallow them whole. This creature is the most venomous fish in the world. It has 13 spines along its back that can release the venom, and this can kill a human within a few hours. They have a potent neurotoxin toxin secreted from glands at the base of their needle-like dorsal fin spines, which they stick up when disturbed or threatened. The more venom that is injected into you, the worse it will be. Their stings cause terrible pain, swelling, necrosis, and then of course death. These horrifying creatures are actually considered a delicacy in many parts of Asia, such as Japan and China. They are usually cooked ginger and put into a clear soup, but could also be served raw as sashimi. As long as they're prepared correctly and their dorsal fins are removed, they are a dense and sweet snack and considered by many to be good for your health. If you're swimming in the ocean, you thankfully won't come in contact with this killer fish creature because they live on the ocean floor, so you won't have to worry. But if you're curious about the stonefish, you can check out more about it on the show River Monsters. They did an episode in 2017. Even though the stonefish isn't the largest creature in the deep sea, it's their venom that makes them the most terrifying. They don't use their venom to catch prey, but it's quite effective when they are threatened and can turn away even the strongest potential predators.
Number 5. Giant isopods. No, this isn't a microscopic picture. This isn't a tick or a bug. This is a giant isopod. One of the scariest looking things picking around the ocean floor. Yeah, I don't know. Imagining this thing wiggling around is enough to already be giving me the willies. Don't worry too much. You're not too likely to find one of these things crawling around your home, as they usually live and feed about 1,600 feet beneath the ocean depths. So you'll have to really go looking for one of these creepy little crawlies. We don't know a lot about isopods, actually. It's difficult to study them in their habitat unbothered deep in the ocean. And also, if I had to guess, I think realistically it's because no one wants to spend any more time looking at one of these little zerglings longer than they have to. Despite their outward appearance, isopods are actually pretty chill. That's the official scientific statement, judging a book by a cover and all that. They're scavengers more than they are predators, waiting at the bottom of the sea for debris to reach them, like discarded bits of meat from crabs or any number of fish which they'll snack on. So basically, they're the moochers of the ocean, waiting for somebody else to do all the work and they'll just clean up the leftovers. It apparently isn't even that big a deal, though, because isopods have been observed to be able to go years and years without eating anything at all, with some reports going as far as 5 years without eating anything. I could not even imagine the anger you would feel through that. Enjoying what we're putting out at Top 5 Scary? Of course you are, that's why you're here. Why not toss a cheeky little subscribe our way as a way of saying thanks? We'll trade you the best scary videos this side of the web in exchange. Number 4. Barreleye fish. Has anyone ever accused you of being empty-headed? I know that's something I've heard a lot in my time. I don't really know what that means. Unfortunately, my head, hollow as it might be, does not allow you to see inside because I am not a barreleye fish, a being which is cursed to have a window for a forehead. The barreleye fish may be one of the most confusing looking things under the sea. I mean, take a look at this thing. It kind of looks like it's not finished yet, you know? Like this fish was late for school and it forgot to put its face on. It's got its eyes inside its head and has a translucent head to accommodate that. You know, the rest of all life thought eyes on the outside, but the barreleye just had to stand out and be different. Those two big green orbs are the fish's eyes, tinted with a sort of biological sunglasses kind of deal to help it zero in on light above it. The barreleye uses its bizarre eyes to look upwards, tracking the shadows of its prey and then fixating on it. You wouldn't expect a creature that looks this weird to be an effective predator at all. Special organs on the fish's belly called soles deflect light from the creature's insides, illuminating the deep sea around it and also letting it camouflage. So this weirdo transparent head fish is also a mobile swimming light show. Just goes to show how absolutely amazing life down in the abyss is, where creatures will naturally adapt to their surroundings to evolve to have a flashlight built into them. Bless you, barreleye fish. Bless you for being you. Number 3. Sarcastic fringehead. At first glance and description, the sarcastic fringehead doesn't sound particularly horrifying. It looks about as funky as most things you would see in an aquarium. And the name might make you wonder a little bit if it's got a reputation for being sassy, like maybe this is the fish that's always backhandedly complimenting you, which would be terrifying in its own right, but not for the reasons we tend to highlight on this channel. No, the sarcastic name comes from the fish's kind of dour expression, and I definitely do see where that's coming from, because looking at photos of me, it looks like it's judging me just a little bit for my life's choices. Now, when this fish opens its mouth, you'll understand why it earned a spot here. The sarcastic fringehead's mouth can open up wider than its body, creating this delightful image you see here, and you will probably be seeing for the rest of your days. Now, if you're a little freaked out looking at this fish that looks like it crawled out of the upside down, that's understandable. But what if I told you that these fish have kiss fights? Sarcastic fringeheads fight for dominance with other fringeheads by expanding their very wide mouths and then pressing them together as a display to show who's got the biggest mouth. This is also how they attract mates, fighting off other fish and smacking their lips together to impress all the lady fringeheads, showing them just how wide their mouths go. And man, it has taken so much restraint right now to be talking about this and trying to keep this at a PG rating. Number 2, frilled shark. A frilled shark, all things considered, sounds pretty cute. Maybe you're picturing a shark with lovely frills hanging off of it like some other fish have, like a cool fringe denim jacket. Or maybe you're picturing a shark wearing something lacy and frilly. I'm not gonna judge, you do whatever you'd like. Unfortunately, neither of those fantasies are particularly accurate because like everything else on this list, the frilled shark is an abomination of the ocean. It's already unnerving enough to look at, serving massive alien vibe, the James Cameron kind, not the friendly little gray man kind. And then it opens its mouth and you understand where the name comes from as you're treated to a mouth of 300 thrilled, razor-sharp teeth like barbed wire. Just like the alien, they're able to open their jaws real wide to be able to snarf down prey considerably greater than their size, although exactly how much larger is unknown. These little terrors hunt by swimming around with their maw open and using the darkness to try and lure smaller prey right into a trap before being engulfed by what looks like the world's sharpest car wash. I genuinely can't even look at this thing's mouth for too long without starting to feel a little bit queasy, imagining it biting into anything. The frilled shark is considered a living fossil, much like the coelacanth, because in the 80 million years frilled sharks have been swimming across our planet, they haven't changed much. Like, at all. They more closely resemble prehistoric creatures than any of their contemporary shark counterparts. All that to say is, I guess, whatever nature was cooking with the frilled shark, clearly they got something right. They nailed it if they saw this thing for 80 million years and thought, absolutely no changes. This one's perfect. Number 1, colossal squid. At our number 1 spot is a living legend, the colossal squid. Thought for many years to be an urban legend due to their elusive nature, for a long time not much was known about these cephalopods other than the fact that they are very, 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 very large. Reports of giant squids describe them as being anywhere up to a staggering 65 feet long, but collected squids range in at a much more humble 42 feet long. Oh. Okay, well I was getting worked up over nothing. Humans and colossal squids don't particularly cross paths often, what with them living 3,000 feet under the sea. And that is definitely a good thing, because these squids are not something you would ever want to mess with. Its tentacles are lined with sharp hooks to sink into their prey and prevent them from getting away. Alongside the usual suckers that squids' tentacles have, hard, toothy-like rings that dig into prey and keep them wrangled. It's common to find whales covered in these scars, or slashes and shreds from the hook of a giant squid. The thought of being grabbed by these tentacles is enough to stop me from ever ordering calamari again. What with being one of the bigger monsters swimming around down there, the colossal squid doesn't have much in the way of predators. I guess that's kind of one of the benefits of being a 40-foot monstrosity. People stop messing with you, you know? People stop trying to pick on you. They start respecting you more, and no one tries to eat you anymore once you're, you know, bigger than anything else down there.
Number 5, wolverine fish. Hugh Jackman, if you're watching this and you like scary stuff, this first one's for you, my dude. In 2021, there were more than 200 new species of just freshwater fish discovered alone. Just freshwater. Hopefully ancistrous wolverine. Okay, that's a pretty badass name. And a badass looking fish. There's no way in hell I'm taking that thing off of a hook with my hands. Are you kidding me? And you wouldn't want to either, because these fishes have strong lateral curved spikes called endontas tucked underneath their gills, which at any time they can extend and jab at their prey with these spiky prong-like claws, hence the name. For those of you who don't know Wolverine, he's an X-Men with claws. It kind of goes hand in hand here, you know? The wolverine fish is actually a catfish, however, that grows up to only about 6 or 7 inches long. They get their name from both the barbed razor-sharp prongs associated with them and the temper and aggression inside of them. Yeah, so like full-blown Wolverine-style anger. Luckily for us, they live in between rocks found so far in the Brazilian river of Rio Xingu in the lower Amazon that I don't think you're gonna swim into any one of these soon. I feel like that's where the scariest fish are, the Amazon. Also, kind of confusing biologists, so many species and names alike but not alike. Catfish, wolf fish, half wolf, half man, X-Men fish. Like every day there's a new fish. Wolverine fish are only herbivores and graze on algae and detritus tucked away deep under rocks, so the likelihood of you just like stepping on one of these are pretty low. Might scare you away from their home, but they won't eat you. Just don't go flipping over any rocks and reaching underneath murky water in the Amazon. That's all I can say for this one. Number 4, alien fish? Well, one magnificent alien fish, Advena magnifica, which translates to magnificent alien, hence the name. No, it's not from outer space or anything, don't panic. Technically, it's not even a fish. This sea sponge literally gets its name because it just looks like E.T. Hey, I didn't name it, they did. To be fair, it does look like E.T. the alien, come on. The long neck, the huge head, the big eyes, it's literally perfect. This year, a new sea sponge was discovered officially. Well, plucked back in 2017, but they're sure now that it's a completely new species. Over 6,000 feet deep in the Pacific Ocean, research team from the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History came upon a mesmerizing seascape. Dr. Chris Ma of the team dubbed the scene, quote, a forest of the weird. The sea sponge rises up from the seafloor to look exactly onto the direction of the current, mouth open, hoping to swallow up some bacteria to eat. That's sick, just an alien sponge sticking their ET heads out, catching the breeze, hoping for some fast food. Doesn't sound like a bad gig. The 2 holes of the sponge that give it its signature ET eyes appearance are clearly visible on the outside of its head. These holes, technically oscules, serve as openings of which the sponge pumps water out of. The sponge is covered in even tinier pores where the water is drawn into the sponge along with tasty bacteria and other small prey. Just sucked in through small chambers and the water's pumped out through a bunch of canals. Cristiana Castello Branco, the researcher who found this deep-sea gray, explains the importance of this discovery by saying, quote, as all of these organisms are intricately connected, by documenting and describing marine biodiversity, we are building a better understanding of life and the impact of humans on Earth. Yeah, 100% we're all connected. Let's give these little dudes some clean water. How about that, people, all right? No more Mountain Dew bottles just thrown into the lake. Pick it up. Number 3, bulldog fish. Catfish, wolverine fish, now bulldog fish. When are we just gonna have a fish, you know? The bulldog fish, or the Xenactinus oryx. That sounds like a Decepticon, doesn't it? Xenactinus oryx? Roll out. Oh, it's Autobots. Never mind. This thing can truly teach a new dog some old tricks. Like 90 million years old tricks, because our newest discovery is actually a really old one. Extinct, thankfully. You wouldn't want to haul this thing up in your net. The Dino of the Week blog states that some of the longest bulldog fish ever may have once even measured up to 6 meters long. Yeah, that's like a regular sized shark. The bulldog fish fossils may be quite valuable as well. A fully intact, complete framed specimen sold for about $110,000 at Sotheby's auction house. Is this the reason fish and chips are so expensive nowadays? Like, what's going on here? This scary dude roamed the warm, shallow waters of the Western Interior Seaway that split America in 2 halves during the Upper Cretaceous period. Distinguished by their heavy, bony skull and armed to the tooth with teeth like a nightmare, last year, Andy Moore, a local fisherman, made a discovery while taking part in a fishing competition in Nebraska. When he brought his kayak over to free his line, he first thought that it was a skeleton of something that had recently died, so he just returned back to his tournament. He contacted the sheriff's department after the tournament, worried, and they got back to him saying it was his lucky day. Dude, imagine just reeling in a 90 million year old fish during a fishing tournament. Like, I hope he won. That's definitely first place, isn't it? Oh, Andy? Oh yeah, caught a 90 millioner, yeah. Number 2, the barreleye fish. Tubular eyes, bro. No, seriously, your tubular eyes actually are very rare and also significantly puzzling. Say hello to the barreleye fish, or the Macropina microstoma from the Opisthoproctus species, meaning backwards in Greek, to signify their uniquely designed flipped up eyes luminously inside alive in their head, or backwards. Generally directed upwards and back to detect the silhouettes of both predator and prey, although they can move their eyes back to forward. Basically, they have a sunroof above their head that they can look up from inside their own head. Hey, that's pretty tubular, bruh. They can be found deep in tropical waters in the twilight zone, between 600 and 800 meters down. There are fish that gaze upwards through their transparent heads with eyes like mesmerizing emerald orbs. These domes are huge spherical lenses that sit on a pair of long silvery eye tubes, hence its common name. The barreleye fish has a green tint over their eyes, which even acts as kind of like a sunglasses to help them track down prey in any sort of lighting. There is literally nowhere to hide, even for a bioluminescent fish. Barreleyes are one step ahead the entire time. After years of only seeing dead, net-caught specimens, in 2021, Bruce Robinson with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute in California and their high-def cameras finally got a pretty good look at these dudes using remotely operated vehicles. Dude, these are apparently really rare. Side note, is this how fish are evolving? Like their heads are becoming see-through all of a sudden? Because this is terrifying. Like imagine a shark with a sunroof. Number 1, the snapping shrimp. This little guy, the snapping shrimp, aka the pistol shrimp, aka mussel in the Alphidae family. Sounds like a mafia family, doesn't it? Hey, I'm a pistol shrimp with the Alphidae family, who's asking? This little thing can literally create a sonic boom under the water right before and as it's attacking you. That's not scary at all. It's so fast you literally don't even know what's happening due to the stun alone and how fast it is. You won't see it coming, you might hear it coming. This thing's sound is that big, it creates a sonic boom. We know nothing, Jon Snow. Like, they're apparently found in coral reefs and oyster reefs. These pistol shrimp hit their prey at over 100 kilometers per hour. In doing so, a large air bubble is created, and because this Mike Tyson shrimp is so quick with the jab, the following pop is around 200 decibels. It has a punching hand and a claw hand, like a jab and a cross. The sound stuns their prey first and resembles sticks breaking or cracking of a knuckle under the water. But don't panic, not in any lakes or freshwater, they live in tropical seas. They're usually muddy green or orange in color, usually only about that big. Scientists found that actual light is produced when the bubble pops due to the high temperature and pressure under the water. They're the only ones so far that can do this. I mean, this is pretty sick. And also pretty terrifying. The knowledge that fish are starting to learn how to flashbang other fish like they're clearing a room in Call of Duty, dude, that's where I draw the line. I'm not going swimming anymore at all.
Kicking off at number 5, the Helicoprion. And please forget about the Megalodon when it comes to some of the most bizarre and impossibly terrifying creatures that would have roamed the 7 seas of the ancient world, because the Helicoprion is a literal buzzsaw of a shark. And when I say literal buzzsaw, I mean it. Have you ever heard of a tooth whirl? Well, no, because seemingly it was an evolutionary offshoot that didn't exactly catch on back in the day when life was figuring out a way. But at some point in time, this aquatic creature figured it could get by growing a circular saw out of its mouth. Back in 2011, a strange tooth whirl was discovered on the skull of a Helicoprion in the Phosphorus site of Idaho that measured a staggering 18 inches in length. Now, it gave an explanation to an evolutionary curiosity that had existed since the late 1890s of a species of ancient shark that seemingly grew teeth in an incredibly bizarre pattern, attached to their lower jaw by a mass of cartilage. What's even more terrifying is that the Helicoprion is believed to have created this teeth whirl in the pattern of a growth ring, as this shark aged, its new teeth would push the previous set back in an infinite whirl, and essentially the older the shark, the bigger the buzzsaw. The jaw would close, rotating the teeth backwards in the fashion of a circular saw. Now, thankfully for us, this species of shark existed over 290 million years ago, so there'll be no risk of us running into such a terrifying monstrosity anytime soon. But the fact that evolution caused this creature's jaw to try and become a literal maw of razor-sharp teeth like some horrifying Lovecraftian beast is nightmare fuel enough. Perhaps its closest relative is the goblin shark or the tiny spookfish and ghost sharks that have considerably shrunk down in size since their heyday. Presumably, we can only guess as to its feeding habits, but with the way its teeth were assembled, that's a pretty tall order for our imaginations. Oh, and also, did I mention that they were about 40 feet in length? Not today, Helicoprion. No thank you. Swinging in at number 4, the Dunkleosteus. Alright, unfortunately we're going to have to stay in the ocean for a little while longer, because if we're talking subaquatic horror movies, then I think I may have the perfect candidate, and certainly one that hasn't been covered in horror cinema before. Yet anyway. Forget about Piranha 3D, forget about Deep Blue Sea, let me introduce you to the Dunkleosteus. Alright, okay, maybe on the surface they don't look that terrifying, especially compared to the Helicoprion, but just hold that thought for a moment. Fish assemble in shoals, right? Swimming about in great big swarms under the sea, bright and colourful and most of them pretty unassuming, who generally make up the prey rather than the predator. Well, about 380 million years ago, things would have been a little bit different, especially if this guy was about. A giant armoured fish whose jaws possessed enough pressure to exert over 755 kilograms of pressure. Now imagine a whole swarm of them coming toward you. Also, it's important to note that there are over 10 different species of the Dunkleosteus, suggesting that they were in fact both numerous and diverse creatures, vastly populating the oceans of the ancient world. The largest of the species is the Dunkleosteus torelli, a fish fish that had a rounded snout and 2 razor-sharp plates that made up its beak of a jaw. Like other placoderms of the time, it had a 2-part highly armoured exterior made from bone, and the reason that it possessed such a powerful beak, and another source for the nightmare fuel, is that it's also theorized these creatures cannibalized each other. And also, again, did I mention that the largest of these things grew up to 20 feet in length? It's a freaking fish. Really, the Dunkleosteus makes the piranha of today look like a goldfish. These things are the most metal thing that you could ever have possibly battered and fried and served alongside chips with mushy peas. Cannibals, scourge of the sea, razor sharp beaks. No thank you. No thank you. No wonder we left the ocean. Next up at number 3, the Megalania. Alright, now, some of you may have looked at this list and thought, dragons. I bet there's going to be some dragons on this list. But yeah, come on guys, we know that dragons aren't real. And I'm starting to string you along like that. I really am. Komodo dragons though, those things are very, very real. Just imagine a horror movie with a whole pit full of Komodo dragons slobbering around with vile poisonous spit frothing from their mouths. And whilst I'm still pretty damn shocked that Komodo dragons haven't featured in their own blockbuster modern horror film yet, although they've certainly been covered in B movies, forget about that for now. Sideline the Komodo dragon because their ancient ancestor is far, far more terrifying. Let me introduce you to the Megalania, the largest terrestrial lizard ever known to have existed, and one of the few ancient creatures on this list that would have been skittering across the earth alongside our ancient human ancestors. Yeah, you heard that right. This guy would have been a contender on the apex predatory pyramid, and given the fact that the Greek translation of this creature's name is Ancient Giant Butcher, yeah, competition. Now, given the fact that there is a lack of a complete skeleton of the Megalania, it's hard to establish its exact size, but the most conservative of estimations put this giant lizard at around 23 feet in length with a maximum weight of 620 kilos. Judging from its size alone, it would have fed upon mid to large animals, mostly giant marsupials such as the Diprotodon, as well as large birds and their chicks. Sorry. Native to Australia, some scientists regard the Megalania as the only predator of the Australian Pleistocene megafauna, meaning that this thing would have dominated the landscape as the apex predator of the time, rivaled only by the quincana, a genus of extinct terrestrial crocodile. Oh yeah, and also, as a varanid lizard, this thing was dripping with a highly venomous hemotoxin, and given the fact it is the largest venomous vertebrate ever known, and even more terrifying, the indigenous people of Australia would have been around at the time of the Megalania. Yeah, humans were kept awake at night by the thought of this terrifying lizard out in the bush. No thank you. Coming in at number 2, the hell pig. Alright, now whilst it may seem that by name alone this thing is terrifying enough, I've thought long and hard about what would possibly be the best premise for a horror movie ancient creature throughout the confines of this list. Certainly, the hell pig would strike fear just by its title, but bear with me because the implication behind this giant pig of the wild is going to take a little bit of our imagination for it to truly ignite the nightmare fuel. The Archaeotherium, which means ancient beast, isn't really a pig. If that was, it certainly would visually resemble what are now wild warthogs. The hell pig is actually far closer to being a hippo or even a whale than it is the common swine. It is derived from a disputed genus, the Artiodactyls, which are an ancestral group that now makes up deer, sheep, camels and llamas, and whilst those guys certainly aren't ready to shovel the fear in our faces despite their best efforts, the hell pig was certainly willing and able. For one reason alone. Have you ever seen a hippo open its jaws? Do you know what damage can be wrought by a hippo opening and closing its mouth on a creature's head? Hippos are insane, and these guys, the hell pigs, were the halcyon purveyors of that same ancient terror, a frightening hybrid of warthog meets hippopotamus that roamed the insane wilderness in packs of hell pigs, hunting down prehistoric rhinos. Seriously guys, these hell pigs preyed on the ancestors of rhinos just for the hell of it. Also, because of the structural limitations of their bizarre hybrid maw, the hell pig would have had to have bisected its prey into chunks of flesh before gnawing on it and crunching it down into a mush like some strange giant hell pig truffle hunter. Hell pigs were crazy guys, and if you were scared of razorback, then just imagine a herd of these things coming for you. They wouldn't even give you the mercy of a quick death. It'd just be slow and full of hippo teeth. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot, Haast's eagle. Because yes, when it comes to a creature of such power and terror that would have certainly feasted upon humans given the chance, in that regard, Haast's eagle is one of the undisputed champions of the ancient world. Also, it just so happens to be the largest eagle ever known to have existed. The largest eagle ever. Do you know how efficient eagles are as predators? Yeah. frighteningly so. They're the Lord of the Skies for a reason. Now picture them with a wingspan of nearly 10 feet. And you'll be ready to feel the same fear that the poor flightless moa bird felt before they were hunted to extinction. Have you ever heard of island gigantism? It's a biological phenomenon that occurs when the size of a predator suddenly blows up after being left isolated on an island to hunt all of the poor helpless prey that it so desires. Such is the case with Haast's eagle, specifically in the South Island of New Zealand, presumably around the year 1200 or so AD. You see, the point where this entry earns its feathers is that for an unknown amount of time, Haast's eagle feasted on the flightless moa bird of New Zealand to their heart's content. Eventually though, when the early Maori settlers arrived on the island around the year 1280, eventually in about 1400 AD, Haast's eagle had hunted all of the moa to extinction. At this specific point in time, when the Haast eagle were tragically slipping away from this planet and becoming extinct in their own right, they would literally eat children. These giant, swooping, legendary feathered and beaked predators would soar from the skies of New Zealand, attack and eat Maori children, even in some cases grown humans. Now, although these occurrences are only passed down through Maori legend, Haast eagle plays an integral role in their oral traditions. They refer to it as Puakai, the monster bird, a literal ancestor of the true raptor. The Haast eagle was so damn terrifying that it earned its own place in the mythos of Maori culture. Yeah, it's sad to see such a beautiful creature no longer with us, but holy moly, these birds would have torn us to shreds.
Number 5 on this list is the Loch Ness Monster. Nessie, as many people refer to this creature, is said to be a huge, long-necked, almost dinosaur-looking creature that lives in Scotland. This creature of the deep specifically resides in Loch Ness, a 37-kilometer loch located in the Scottish Highlands. The legend of this sea creature went worldwide back in 1933. A photo was released to the public showing a strange creature's head protruding from the water of Loch Ness. The world went into a frenzy after that photo got out and the legend of Nessie began. Ever since that point, many sightings have been reported, other pictures have been taken, and even sonar readings have indicated this creature swimming in the loch. All of that being said though, we've never had indisputable proof that Nessie's real. Well, I'm here to tell you that Nessie is real, but maybe not how you expect. New Zealand scientists have taken samples of the water in Loch Ness and have studied the DNA that they found in it. Professor Neil Gamel, a geneticist, is quoted saying, "Well, our data doesn't reveal their size, but the sheer quantity of the material that says we can't discount the possibility that there may be giant eels in Loch Ness. Therefore, we can't discount the possibility that what people see and believe is the Loch Ness Monster might be a giant eel." So, the Loch Ness Monster, as we understand it, might not be real, but potentially this loch is full of giant eels that resemble all of the features that Nessie is reported as having. Maybe this is why we've had such a hard time proving this myth, because for years, people have been looking for the wrong thing. I really like the legend of the Loch Ness Monster and honestly want it to be true, but if it had to be giant eels, then I think I could accept that as well. Number 4 on this list is the USS Stein monster. The USS Stein was a Knox-class destroyer ship in the United States Navy. The ship was eventually decommissioned from the American Navy and was transferred to the Mexican Navy in the 90s. That wasn't before it was attacked by a massive sea monster though. In 1978, the USS Stein was attacked by an unknown entity which we now refer to as the USS Stein monster. This monster was said to have been a giant, with some people estimating its size up to 150 feet in length. The ship was sailing in the Pacific Ocean when it was attacked. Technical difficulties with the ship started going wrong and eventually they brought it back into the port. Upon inspection, the sonar system was completely damaged. There were cuts and gashes over 8% of the ship, with some of them being massively deep. They also found suction cups like those of a squid attached to the ship. After investigation of the suction cups and the gashes, it became clear that what they were attacked by isn't your standard animal. Even a giant squid would have had a hard time doing what the monster did to the ship. Ever since that point, the legend of the USS Stein monster has grown. Obviously, this monster has to be real because it has actually attacked a ship. Sadly, we don't know a whole lot about it though. In truth, we know less about what's on the ocean floor than we do about the surface of the moon. So it's very possible that a creature we aren't familiar with yet is dwelling down there. Number 3 on this list is Megalodon. Would this list really be complete if I didn't include the ancient king of the sea? Eleanor Imster writes, Scientists think that Megalodon looked like a stockier version of the great white shark, with strong, thick teeth built for grabbing prey and breaking bones. Regarded as one of the largest and most powerful predators who have ever lived, fossil remains of Megalodon suggest that this giant shark reached a length of about 60 feet. Their large jaws could exert a bite force up to 24,000 to 41,000 pounds. That is a massive, massive animal, guys. Multiple times bigger than the great white sharks we have today. This thing was so big that it would actually eat entire whales. Now, many myths have surrounded Megalodon and its existence since scientists first brought this mammoth of the sea up. Estimates say that Megalodon went extinct roughly 2.6 million years ago, but some people don't buy into that theory. For quite a while now, the legend of a giant shark still living amongst the ocean has had a lot of people wondering if it's possible. If Megalodon was still alive, is it possible that we still wouldn't know about it? How could we miss a creature this giant? How many of them would there be left in the waters? There are surely a lot of questions that come up if you believe Megalodon is still a reality. If this creature was still alive, then people think the Marianas Trench is where it's located, a place so deep and uncharted that it's hard for us to know for sure what's down there. I'm personally not convinced this creature still roams the ocean, but comment down below your thoughts. Is Megalodon still alive? What do you think? Number 2 on this list is the Kraken. The Kraken is one of the largest sea monsters that is said to exist. It all started in Nordic folklore many hundreds of years ago when sailors told tale of a massive beast that preys upon the waters of Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. This fearsome beast was said to pull entire ships to their doom and eat every human on board. The first account of the legend was in 1180 by the King of Norway at the time. Since then, sightings of the creature and lore surrounding its capabilities have grown through the years. Fiction writers and movie makers have also latched onto this creature and included it in many stories. As cool as it would be though, to our current knowledge, the Kraken itself isn't real. However, something similar to it definitely is. The giant squid. The giant squid is a massive squid that's said to be able to grow up to 13 meters in length. Sightings have even put this creature at 20 meters before, but those have never been proven. Even if 13 meters is the maximum length, that's still a large animal and something that would frighten anyone if you're seeing it for the first time. Many experts believe that the legend of the Kraken happened when Norwegian sailors stumbled upon this giant squid, and rather than name it a giant squid, they called it the Kraken. As time went on, the legend spiraled out of control until we got this massive sea monster which attacks boats. Now, even though that might be a bit far from the truth, could I believe that there was one giant squid that was potentially bigger than the rest? Absolutely I could. I could also believe that this giant squid might have attacked a ship or two in its time and maybe even brought one down. If it did do all of that, then there really wouldn't be any difference between this squid and the Kraken. Either way, if you see a massive sea creature with tentacles coming after you, I'd just swim the opposite direction. Number 1 on this list is the Hook Island sea monster. It was first spotted by Robert Le Sarek in 1964 off of Hook Island, and after he saw the monster, he went on to describe it in detail. He said, "It was only when we got to within 20 feet of the serpent that we could see its head clearly. The head was large, about 4 feet from top to bottom, with jaws about 4 feet wide. The lower jaw was flat like that of a sandfish. The skin was smooth but rather dull, brownish black in color. The eyes seemed pale green, almost white. The skin looked more like that of a shark than an eel. There were no apparent scales, nor did we see any parasites around. We supposed the flexible tail would have shaken any off. There were no fins or spines, nor were there any apparent breathing openings, although there must have been some. Perhaps we didn't see them because our attention was focused mainly on the creature's menacing mouth, the inside of which was whitish. The teeth appeared to be small. A fragment of some dark substance hung from the upper row of teeth, possibly a fish. As the monster was lying on the sandy bottom, we could not see the color of its belly. The creature was about 90 feet long. Behind the head, the body was about 2 feet 4 inches thick and remained that way for about 25 feet. Then it gradually tapered into a whip-like tail. The general color of the body was black with 1 foot wide brownish rings every 5 feet. The first starting just behind the head. The skin was smooth but dull. So that's his description, and after he and his family saw it, he took some pictures of the creature to prove his claims. We have to remember that these pictures were taken in 1964 and doctoring them would have been far more difficult back then than it is today. I also tend to believe this claim more than most based on the level of detail he described the beast. Obviously it was a pretty jarring experience if he was able to describe the creature in that much detail. Since the claims, people have researched Hook Island for this monster, but with no luck. Hopefully one day we can spot this monster again and know for certain that it truly exists.
In at 5, sirens. Hailing from Greek mythology, sirens were supposedly dangerous creatures who, according to the legend of Odysseus, the sirens would lure nearby sailors with their enchanting music and singing, which would cause them to shipwreck on the rocky coast of the Sirens' Island. The ships would be wrecked and the sailors aboard would perish either by drowning or slain by the sirens themselves. However, what makes these creatures interesting is that whatever they did to their captives is unknown, but has been implied throughout mythology that they ate the unfortunate sailors. Savage. Now, when Odysseus sailed towards the island housing the sirens, he ordered his crew to tie him to the mast so that he could hear the siren songs without being led astray. Smart mans. The crew were also ordered to plug their ears with beeswax so that they could not hear. In turn, Odysseus' ship passed safely by the island. Now, these mythological monsters were believed to combine women and birds in various ways, often represented as birds with large female heads, bird feathers, and scaly feet. However, throughout history this depiction would change, with them now being represented as female figures with the legs of birds, with or without wings, playing a variety of musical instruments, particularly harps. They've also been depicted as beautiful women whose bodies, not just their voices, are seductive. Now, according to Ovid, the sirens were the companions of a young Persephone. Demeter gave them wings to search for Persephone when she was abducted by Hades. However, Demeter would curse the sirens for failing to intervene in the abduction and were ultimately fated to live only until their mortals who heard their songs were able to pass them by. In at 4, Jormungandr. Hailing from Norse mythology, Jormungandr, meaning huge monster and also known as the Midgard world serpent, is a sea monster and the middle child of the giantess Angbodr and Loki. Now, according to mythology, Odin took Loki's 3 children by Angbodr, the wolf Fenrir, Hel, and Jormungandr, and tossed the latter into the great ocean that encircles Midgard. The serpent then grew so large that it was able to surround the entire earth and grasp its own tail. As a result of this, it received the name the World Serpent. When this monster releases its tail though, Ragnarok will begin. Frightening stuff. Once the beast releases its tail, the seas will become violent as the serpent thrashes its way onto land. Fenrir will set ablaze one half of the world with fireballs, while Jormungandr sprays poison to fill the skies and seas of the other half. The two will then join the sons of Muspel into the plain of Vigrid. Here is where the last meeting between the serpent and Thor is predicted to occur. Thor will become occupied with battling Jormungandr, and they will be unable to help others as they fight their own battles. Thor, however, will eventually kill the serpent, but will fall dead after walking just 9 paces, having been poisoned by the serpent's deadly venom. Tragic stuff, this dude is not to be messed with. In at 3, the Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster hailing from Norse mythology and is a creature of enormous proportions, meaning an unhealthy or twisted animal. The Kraken was borrowed for one of the main antagonist monsters in Ray Harryhausen's Clash of the Titans. This creature is often described as a cephalopod and resembling a giant octopus or squid. The Kraken is said to emerge from the depths of the ocean and envelop whole ships in the grasp of its tentacles and drag them beneath the murky waters. Now, most will remember this sea monster also making an appearance in the second installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean, which featured a more mythologically accurate depiction of the Kraken as opposed to the 2010 remake of Clash of the Titans. Now, its true mythological history goes something like this. After returning from Greenland, an old Norwegian author described in detail the physical characteristics and feeding behavior of the Kraken, proposing that there must be just 2 in all of existence, stemming from the observation that the beasts have always been sighted in the same parts of Greenland Sea and that each seemed incapable of reproduction, as there was seemingly no increase in their numbers. And while that fact may put some minds at ease, there is no denying the impact the Kraken has had on popular culture and sailors alike, with many fearing beneath those murky waters are elongated tentacles waiting patiently to feast. In at 2, Dagon. Dagon is a deity who presides over the deep ones, an amphibious amphibious humanoid race indigenous to Earth's oceans. Now, this bad boy was first introduced in Lovecraft's short story Dagon, but is also mentioned extensively through the mythos. Also referred to as Father Dagon, he is a great old one and the consort of Mother Hydra. Now, Dagon is huge, really huge, and could potentially reach a height of 50 feet. He is an enormous monster and is worshipped by the devout cult of humans and deep ones, who revere him as their deity. It is rumored that he is immortal, however his longevity may be attributed to his fraternization with the Starspawn, who will oftentimes select specimens from a given species to protect, nurture, and empower for reasons only known to them. Now, Dagon is aptly described in the short story, I quote, "With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. This is not a beast you would want to stumble across on a dark night." And finally, in at number 1, Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a fictional cosmic entity created by our favourite writer over here at Top 5 Scary, H.P. Lovecraft himself, and was first introduced in the short story The Call of Cthulhu, which, if you haven't read it, get on it immediately. Cthulhu is a great old one of great power that lies in the depth-like slumber beneath the Pacific Ocean in his sunken city of R'lyeh, and remains a dominant presence in the eldritch dealings on our world. Now, it's near impossible to describe Cthulhu, however the most detailed descriptions come from the Call of Cthulhu and are based on statues of the creature. One of these statues, constructed by an artist after a series of baleful dreams, is said to have, I quote, "yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, a pulpy tentacled head surmounted, a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings." Horrifying, right? Worse still, this oceanic monster has a loyal group of followers. It is unknown how large the throng of worshippers are, but his cult has many cells around the globe and are noted for chanting horrid phrases that translate to, I quote, "In his house at R'lyeh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming." So, what happens when Cthulhu emerges from his slumber beneath the ocean? Well, the story says that, I quote, "The thing cannot be described, but it is called the green sticky spawns of the stars, with flabby claws and an awful squid head with writhing feelers. All I can say, folks, is that if Cthulhu awakens, there's trouble for not just you, but for all of us. You have been warned."
Kicking off the list at number 5, open water. How long can you tread water for? 1 minute? 1 hour? 1 day? Longer. Well, that's the horrifying plot of the 2004 deep-sea thriller Open Water. The film follows excited couple Dan and Susan as they arrive to a tropical getaway. After a very uncomfortable night filled with mosquitoes and a lot of slapping, they decide to go scuba diving the next day with the group. Sounds fun? But after an incorrect head count, the couple is left exploring the deep while the boat leaves them stranded. Upon resurfacing, they quickly realize their fate. The film is an hour and 20 minutes of pure anxiety. They get tired, they get hungry, and of course they get sharks. It's a roller coaster, it's great. Here's an interesting little tidbit. The director, Chris Kentis, didn't use any CGI in this movie at all. Instead, he decided to feed real sharks real tuna, so the actors can truly get a feel for the movie. As long as the sharks were being fed tuna, they didn't harm the actors. Okay, I would have walked off of that set so fast. Swam out of that set so fast, rather. Honestly, I love this movie. It genuinely made me feel really uncomfortable. It's straightforward and it sticks to a simple plot. The sharks don't need to be genetically enhanced, they don't need to have frickin' laser beams attached to their frickin' heads. They're sharks. Sharks are already scary. Just be a shark. It's good. It works. You have like 1,000 teeth. Just point a camera at them and play some ominous music. Done. Bam. Millions of dollars. The acting in this movie is great as well. You can tell the actors are actually uncomfortable and exhausted while they were filming. With only a budget of $500,000, this deep sea horror flick pulled in $54 million worldwide. Not too shabby. Number 4, Deep Blue Sea. This is a classic. This may be the first horror movie that I can recall actually watching, so this one hits close to home. Released in 1999, starring Samuel L. Jackson and directed by Rennie Harlin, Deep Blue Sea tells the story of a team of scientists determined to fight Alzheimer's disease. But to do so, they must study a group of mako sharks in an underwater facility. And as you would expect by watching this video, the tests don't go so well and the sharks end up faster, stronger, and smarter than before. LL Cool J is in this movie and he kinda crushes it low-key. The sets are really well done too. I mean, the director wanted to make the next best shark movie after Jaws, which I'll get into of course later on. The animatronic sharks look pretty legit for the most part. Thomas Jane, who you recognize as the OG Punisher, plays a shark wrangler named Carter. He's actually afraid of sharks in real life, and he announced in an interview that since Jaws came out, he's been terrified of sharks, and that 24 years later he plays a shark wrangler. Classic. I'd love to be a fly on the wall hearing that phone call with his agent. He's like, really?
How much? God damn it. Some scenes are timeless because of the practical sets. It looks really good. They actually use these massive water tanks that were left over after James Cameron had finished using them to film Titanic. Thanks, Jimbo. Of all the reviews I've found, it seems like people are actually really split on this movie. People love it or absolutely hate it. I know which side I'm on, but what about you? Also, let us know in the comments what you think of LL Cool J's music video that he did for this. I'm curious if anybody else remembers that hidden gem. Number 3, 47 Meters Down. Starring Mandy Moore, this deep-sea 2017 thriller, directed by Johannes Robert, is kind of like the movie Open Water, but with a bit of a twist. While vacationing in Mexico, sisters Kate and Lisa, played by Mandy Moore and Claire Holt, decide to go scuba diving in a cage underwater to get a look at some fun sea life. Now, of course, things don't go planned. The cage breaks off from the boat and descends, well, 47 meters down, and the sisters are soon stalked by a bunch of sharks. I thought this movie was going to be a lot of the same old thing we've seen before. While some parts are obviously predictable, the way the film concludes sets it apart from others. So as the sisters are trapped in the dark waters, their oxygen tanks are slowly running out of air. This added element to an already terrifying premise makes a great hour-and-a-half deep-sea thriller. If you liked 47 Meters Down, the sequel, 47 Meters Down Uncaged, it's actually also a pretty good time, so check it out. Number 2, The Shallows. Okay, this isn't a deep sea horror, but it is about a scary shark, and it's too good not to mention, alright? What do you want from me? Starring Blake Lively and directed by Jaime Colette Serra, this 2016 shark thriller finds medical student Nancy Adams, played by Blake Lively, as she sets out to a secluded beach to hit up some waves to help her get her mind off of a personal tragedy. After she grabs her surfboard and gets going, she's just a mere 200 meters away from shore when a great white shark decides, it's lunchtime, and then attacks Nancy. So she books it to the nearest rock and then waits for the predator to leave. But unfortunately, the shark is in absolutely no rush and waits for Nancy to return to the water. I mean, she's got to leave some point, right? I mean, the shark knows what's up. It's not its first rodeo. So this is the same director that did The Commuter, Nonstop, and Run All Night, which all include Liam Neeson for some weird reason. So I was curious to see how he would do with a smaller scale thriller about a shark. Turns out he did a great job. I like this movie a lot more than I thought I would. This may very well be the last good shark movie, and I'm okay with that. The simple and well executed plot had me holding my breath literally the entire time. Well, not literally, but I tried. Blake Lively's performance in this reminds me of James Franco's from 127 Hours. A lot of still moments with the character reflecting on their past, and it really captivates the audience. Sometimes less is more, and The Shallows certainly hits the nail on the head with shark suspense. If you haven't seen it yet, add it to your list. You won't regret it. Finally, number 1, of course you guessed it, Jaws. This 1975 Spielberg classic is the sole reason most of us and our parents are afraid to swim in the ocean. Being one of, if not the greatest shark movie, it's surprising how little the terror is actually seen. See, Spielberg wanted to go an hour of the film before you even see the shark to add a layer of suspense. This movie is a classic. It would be very hard to find someone who hasn't seen Jaws, for good reason. Many argue that it was the film that put Spielberg front and center. So what's the deal with this movie? Why is it so popular? Well, it was the first good shark movie, arguably. After a great white shark named Bruce terrorizes a beach, a sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer come to save the day. The film is the first of its kind. With only a budget of $7 million, Jaws managed to pull in over $400 million worldwide, but it wasn't easy. See, during the filming of Jaws, the Orca, the boat, actually sank in real life. The cast and crew had to be rescued from another boat, and they even lost a camera during the whole ordeal. Moment of silence for that camera. Okay, that's long enough. George Lucas actually came by the set to visit Spielberg during filming, and during a mechanical malfunction, the acclaimed Star Wars director actually got stuck inside of the shark's mouth. They had to pry it open to get him free. I wonder if they used the jaws of life to get him out.